I've been out here working in the woods since 1975, so seen a lot of changes. The Oregon Forest Practices Act has amended their Practice Act over 30 times since 1972, and in 2023 there was over 100 changes. So there's a lot of new rules out here.
The new rules added quite a few new buffers and wider buffers to this unit. So logging around them from the landings we already had set up was going to be a challenge, and without damaging the buffers. The buffers in the bottom of this unit would have been a 75-foot SSBT or 70-foot SSBT, but have now been expanded to 110 feet. So that's 35 extra feet of buffer that we have to protect. And then each of these draws in the old rules would not have had a buffer in it at all. We would have been able to log the entire thing. But now some of them have 75-foot small non-perennials, and then that extend up 800 feet off the end of the small non-perennial into RELZs that also require protection. So all three of these draws in this unit now require protection, where in the old rules they would not have.
D&H did a really good job with these new requirements. When I come out and look at something, I'm looking to see that it's there, but also how well it was done. And in this case, it was exemplary. The trees, they're in really good shape. There's no limbs busted off. They look great.
With this being the first new rule unit that D&H had done, Brad did an amazing job portraying these new rules to the cutting, to his crew, and taking time to learn these new rules and really care about what he was protecting.
Downloading the Venza maps. I'll have my crew download them, the cutters will download them, because these units, these RLZs, are not marked. But if you have your Venza map with you on your phone while you're working down there, you know you're in an area that you can only fall timber in a certain direction, or an area that you have to try to leave the 6-inch and smaller vegetation that's in that area.
We left the felled wood inside the buffer and yarded wood from the other side across it, and used that wood that was fell in there as kind of a protection for to not have skid roads through it. And then we'd go back later and pull that out before we changed roads, so that area was preserved.
You look at this unit, there's many places that we had to hang through and across, and the crew did an excellent job.
Brad also went above and beyond by limiting his roads through the buffers, like the one behind me, and his crew pulled a long ways on that back hillside to reach into that corner, so they took away one road that they had to hang through the buffer. So there's just little things like that, minimizing impact on the buffer that cost him more time and more money. They are getting fewer logs by working around these limitation zones, extra buffers. They're pulling further to limit the damage to these riparian areas. All of this comes at a time cost and less logs, less production, which ultimately comes back on the logger. And so, yeah, there's a lot of financial risk.
You might have to end up logging it from a different landing than you wanted to in order to protect certain resources that are in the unit. So it can end up being more costly. It can end up being more dangerous for crew because you're leaving more standing timber that they have to log around.
It had a variety of species, a lot of spruce, a lot of hemlock, a lot of Doug fir, alder, big leaf maple. But in order to accommodate that many species and that many sorts, you need a big landing space.
We're out in the Coast Range here, steep ground, maybe not a lot of places to build landings.
Brad brought in his own equipment to build a small step landing for the yarder to sit on, so that he had enough room to accommodate all these sorts for all these species.
We had to reach out a long ways. We were out over 3,000 feet across the canyon trying to get enough lift up over the hump and some of those buffers in order to get the timber to the landing.
And that's just another example of how D&H goes out of their way to find solutions.
And coming out to this unit, I drove in along here and looked at it, and it's just rock solid. It looks great. They did everything they needed to do, and then some.
They make it very easy on me when they come into a unit because they know what they're doing and they do it efficiently and there's never an issue.